Welcome, all you Shehanites, to another special episode of Sheehan is Dead Comics. I'll be interviewing Matt Hawkins very shortly. There he is. Here he comes.
Hold on, how do I? Can you see me?
I can see you and I can hear
Oh,
you.
okay. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you, buddy?
Doing well. Doing well.
Hey,
Ah,
thanks. First of all, thanks for being patient with me and my transposing dates and everything. So thank you for being cool.
no worries.
And yeah, I'm glad you made it home in one piece in your LA traffic. So
Yeah, I didn't think about the fact that being done with something at 3 o'clock, then having to walk to the parking lot. There was a funeral was at 2, so I was over by 3. Then I had to walk to the parking lot. And by the time I got in my car, got to the freeway, got on the freeway, it was 4 o'clock traffic. So I was like, fuck me. So anyway, and then standing outside in the hot sun, man, it's fucking hot. I don't know what part of the country you live in?
I live in Albany. We're about 2.5 hours north of New York City.
Gotcha.
So
I know where I
it
know where
was in
that's
the
at.
90s like 2 days ago for 2 days, like 95. Then it's 61 right now. So
Mm, I am doing that.
yeah.
It's well over 100 outside, and there's a massive fire not too far from here, where it's north of my son's house. It hasn't they managed to contain it. It's
Wow.
fires here in LA are getting out of hand.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope I hope that stays contained because yeah, we all know what happened a few years ago or a couple of years ago. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Oh,
Well, dude, jazzed to talk to you. The
cool.
legend, the image legend, Matt
Uh,
Hawkins.
yeah,
Matt
legend of
Hawkins.
my own mind. So
Hey, so I think it's been about 3 years now. You were on with Mark Silvestri on Omar Near Mint Condition. Do you remember that?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I watched that and I didn't know who you were, so forgive me. But I was like, wow, these guys, you and Silvestri were so dynamic together, and it was such a pleasant interview to listen to. So when I had the chance to reach out to you, here we are. So thank you again.
No, I've been it's funny. I've You ever watched that? There's a show, a documentary I saw. It was called 30 Feet from Greatness, and it was about all of Beyonce's backup singers.
Okay.
And I felt that way sometimes, even though I've got my own career. But I was either Rob Liefeld's guy in the early days, and since then I've been Mark Silvestri's guy. And which is fine. I mean, there certainly are worse things to be in life, but I've always been overshadowed by these kind of big name artist, entrepreneur guys that I've worked with. So.
Well, you know what, dude, that's mighty humble of you because I appreciate that. As I've gotten older, I'm 45, I've turned 44 last month, and I've thought to myself, am I like a take a bull by the horns guy, or am I like just a glue guy? I think I'm just a glue guy. So, I'm not the Rob Liefeld or the Mark Silvestri either. So, uh,
Something we can't all be that. And I think
yeah,
knowing
and
knowing
it's
what you
okay,
are,
and it's
it's
okay.
okay. I've had a fantastic career. I talk to people about comics, and people like, you do what? And now they think it's interesting. The perception is either that, oh, you're rich and famous because you're in comics and you have movies and TV shows. That's the small percentage of people, and then the rest
Yeah,
of people think you're doing like Looney Tunes or something. It depends on who it is. But it's changed a lot. I mean. But I've been to 40 some different countries around the world. I've been to hundreds and hundreds of comic conventions all over the world. I've seen the world thanks to comics. People talk about they joined the Navy to see the world. I've seen the world because of comics.
dude,
And both
that's
Top
like
Cow and Extreme and Image Comics have had really strong international presences. So, and I've handled the international licensing for Top Cow since 1998. So, we do a lot of foreign editions. People don't see a lot of those, but a book like Sunstone gets published in 28 languages.
wow, holy moly! I would have never guessed that.
So,
Never
and
guessed
sometimes
that.
the U.S. print runs are some of the smaller ones.
Yeah, I
So
believe that.
I think that's why Image has maintained sort of its strength. I think people don't necessarily understand that. I think Marvel, DC, Dark Horse to some extent because a lot of its licenses and Image have been around so long. We have these footholds in the European marketplace and in some parts of the world where we've built these audiences, and it makes us a little more diverse to the American fluctuation. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, I can't tell you how many times in my career I've been told that comics were dying or comics were dead or it was the end as we know it. the REM style. And you know what? I'm 57. I look at Mark Silvestri, he's 67. This is all he and I have ever done, you know, and it's been a nice, fun ride, and I can't imagine doing anything else. I we have this conversation lately, which is kind of a weird one to have, is like, how much longer are we going to do this?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know, if
Yeah.
you're 44, you're getting to that age where it's like, fuck, man, I'm not a kid anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And like these 20-year-olds, they look like little kids. And when I was 20, they didn't look like little kid. I thought 20, I was an adult. And now when I'm 40 something, like they look like little freaking kids. And when did that happen? And
Well, I'll be when I go to CVS to pick up a prescription from time to time, and I hear someone in front of me like date of birth, they're like, "Oh, 2007." And I'm like, "Whoa," like,
I mean, think about that. People that are 21 were born in 2005.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I
yeah.
mean, so
It's
they can drink,
crazy.
you
Yeah,
know, not even
yeah,
that they can talk, they can fucking drink, you know? I mean,
yeah, yeah,
I see that because I was born 69, 69. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Seen a lot. No
yeah.
complaints.
Well, besides, someone who hit like maybe the super cosmic lottery, you've hit the cosmic lottery considering all you've seen. So please, let's slow it down for a sec. Tell me your origin story. So you grew up, where'd you grow up? What comic,
Um,
how'd you get into comics?
well, it is funny because my quote unquote superhero origin story in comics is not typical, and when I tell it, it tends to tick people off because I didn't actually read comics as a kid.
Really? Okay.
I was a science fiction nerd and
All
read, you
right.
know,
Well,
I scouted
that's,
mob, a physics
yeah,
major, and so
physics
I didn't really
major.
have a lot of education. I mean, I'd read some Looney Tunes stuff and maybe some Archie from, you know, a little bit of that Daffy Duck when I was a little kid, but I was not a comic reader at all. And I had gone to UCLA, got my physics degree, and I was working at a bank right out of college, and I hated it. And my nephew was a big comic fan, and he wanted to go meet Rob Liefeld at the signing. And
Oh
I didn't
boy.
know who Rob Liefeld was. This was Mile High Comics. I think it was June of '93. So it was Image was fresh, you know.
Yes.
And I waited, you know, I went with my nephew to this in Anaheim, California, to this signing, waited for 3 hours to meet Rob Liefeld. Three of the guys right in front of me turned out to be Cedric Nocon, Marlo Alquiza, and I think John Small. And all three of those are working inkers still to this day in comics. Cedric Nocon's a penciler. And I in the time I was waiting to see Rob, I didn't know anything about comics, and I got this education. There's these young guys, they're excited. I was working in a bank, and I fucking hated it. You know, we had to wear suits, and you know, it's basically teller, and I was trying to figure out. You know, I was in grad school at the time, and then I got to the front, and Rob and this group were inside this little tented area. And we went inside the thing, and there were these six guys, seven guys that were all wearing these black leather Extreme Studios jackets. It was him, it was Eric Stevenson, Norm Rapman, Danny Mickey, Dan Frega, Marat Michaels. That was the original Richard Ory. I think that's exactly who was there. And they had a bunch of cute girls with them, and I'm like, fuck, these guys got it all, you know? And I was 22 at the time, 21, I don't even know. And so and it was a weird, I tell my sons this all the time. I have two adult sons in the 20s now, and I tell them the universe opens up opportunities for people all the time. They just don't recognize it, you
Yeah.
know? And like for me, I was given a weird opportunity to meet this guy at a weird time, and and if I hadn't have waited in this line and spent 3 hours talking to these guys that were right in front of me, and then when we got up to Rob, I saw Rob hired, I think, Cedric Nocon on the spot. Looked through his portfolio and hired him, and and I was just so struck by that. I was like, oh, you know, I'm not an artist, but you looking for anybody else, for anybody to do anything else? Because I was the next guy, you know, and he's like, I need somebody that can write letters, pages, and write press releases. Do you think you could do that? I'm like, yes. I had no fucking idea how to do that. And so you know, to this day, I never forget it. It's a crazy story. There's Crown Books used to be a bookstore. It's not in business anymore, but I went down to Crown. They had a book called How to Write a Press Release. I went home and wrote a press release about that signing that I told them that I would have sent out to the local press, faxed it to them. They hired me the next day.
That is amazing. Wow.
And that
So,
was 34, 33 years ago. Yeah.
I apologize.
All good, no worries.
Um, that's amazing. So yeah, there was no Google back then. There was no AI. So you had to go to
No,
the bookstore and actually look,
yeah.
hey, where's this press release? Do you have a press release book? And they're like, yeah,
I did.
sure.
I said, "Do you have a book?" And literally, they had a book called "How to Write a Press Release," and it had step by step, and it had a local news thing. And I'm like, okay, so I copied the format, printed it out. I even remember I had a book that I had bought there, and I cut out the Extreme Studios logo from one of the books and pasted it on, and then faxed that so that it looked all official like. And he hired me the next day.
That's
And
awesome.
so, and then I went in and learned by doing, and kind of failed upward. I think the thing people don't understand about the early days of Image is none of us knew what we were doing. We were
Yeah.
all young, punk, brash kids. I mean, I was in my early 20s, and we don't do anything right now without a spreadsheet and a reason. You know what I mean? Back then, it was like, let's do it.
Yeah, it was the Wild West. Yeah.
And no, I mean, and it was crazy because then I wrote Lady Pendragon. It was the first book I ever wrote. First issue sold hundreds of thousands of copies. To this day, still is one of the best-selling books I've ever written. First thing I ever did, just because Image was such a big thing, it was just nutty. And when Rob's Extreme shut down, I think in 2006, or no, 2006, 1996, his first company closed. There was a
Is-
company called Awesome Comics he did. I don't even remember, it was with him and Jeff Loeb, and Alan Moore was actually one of the writers for that. And Eric Stevenson and I both went with him for that. That lasted for 1 year, and then that company closed. And then after that, I went to Image Central and published Lady Pendragon for a year. And then out of that run, Top Cow, Mark hired me. And I've been with Mark for 20, 28, 29 years now.
wow.
So,
Dude, you've
and I,
yeah,
and Mark's just, Mark and I are a good fit because he's very chill and he's
it seems
not a
like it.
micromanager. And he and I have always gotten along very well. He's given me a lot of creative freedom to do the projects over the years that I've wanted to do, but I've never sort of abused that. I don't think I've ever lost money for the company
Oh,
as a
that's
creator. So I'm very particular about what I'm willing to do. And I can't say that about most of the people that we've worked with that they haven't lost us money. I mean, you always it kind of shocks me at times. Some of the best books we've put out over the years haven't sold, and just completely under the radar, and it's frustrating. And people, I think they sort of stereotype you for a certain kind of thing. And now we have what I call three unique lines of books. We have the Witchblade Darkness World, supernatural sort of thing, more kind of traditional universe of characters. We've got the Sunstone world, which is sort of the Stephen Sedgwick romantic stuff, which is our best-selling line of books that a lot of people have never heard of because the readership is primarily adult women.
wow.
And that happened sort of because Stephen Sedgwick, who was the artist on Witchblade and then did After 99 with me, he got tired of doing superhero stuff and started doing this quirky little romance comic online and got millions of views, built up this huge audience, and we put it out and it's become Sunstone now. It's become one of our best-selling books of all time.
Wow, congratulations. Yeah, I sincerely have not heard of that one.
It's just not for you, it's just not targeted for you. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fascinating to me. The people that read it are largely women who read Tokyo Pop books 20 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, well, that makes sense because I like to stay informed, but yeah, I've not heard of that. Like when I think of Image, I think of, like you said, the founders. I've listened to I listen to his Robservations regularly.
Right.
And he told the story like in multiple parts how they founded Image and some of the backstory. He mentioned you, of course, which I have some questions about some cool
Uh,
stories.
I've not really listened to his podcast. I was
Really?
curious. Yeah, I was actually curious if he ever talked about me on
No,
there.
he did. He mentions you like as being there, as
Right.
being someone there with him. He doesn't say, I don't recall him saying anything really bad, good or bad about you, no offense.
No,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, he and I get along.
yeah, yeah. He
Yeah,
talks about you with enthusiasm.
right.
And
And I promote his stuff. So,
yeah, and on Rob's podcast, like he's pretty much a straight shooter. Like he calls it how he sees it. He's such a historian for the comic book medium. Like he tells story, like he'll grab a comics journal that he has from like 1979 about John Byrne or
yeah.
beef between John Byrne and like George Perez, And then
Yeah.
he'll tell stories of like, how Deadpool came or what he thinks about the current run of like Marvel and so on and so forth. He's super unfiltered, but very enjoyable. So one of
I'm
the,
not that at all, by the way. I don't know any of that stuff. I still to this day haven't read most of the older comics. I in the early days, right after Rob hired me, once we started doing some of this stuff, it was fun. I almost left to go back into science or do something else because I realized a lot of these books they weren't really for me. You know what I mean? I the kind of books I would read and like were not really early image stuff. And so, but then he introduced me, Eric Stevenson introduced me to Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, and some of that stuff, and I realized, oh, there's more to it than Kapow. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I'm fine with Kapow. We've made lots of money, and it's paid for my kids' colleges, and I mean, but I need something different, So, and I'm
Sure.
not really a big superhero fan. Never have been. I mean, to me, and I irritate people by saying this, but I've always thought the superheroes were kind of silly.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. I can see that, but I appreciate a good story off the beaten path from time to time because I'm a big kapow kind of guy. But
Right.
I can appreciate that.
No, I
Um,
mean look, I certainly have written a lot of superhero-y, kapow-y stories, and I've tried to write some esoteric, fun, high thinking kind of stuff, and I know what sells, so I write what sells.
yeah,
Every
yeah,
once in a while, I'll put out something that's just kind of for me.
sure, sure. I appreciate that. Now, regards Mark Silvestri, I've like reached out to him a couple of times. And he's probably like, "Who's this weirdo?" in my comments. But anyway, what I know of him is that he got big off of X-Men. And
Right.
Rob talks about him like he says he's the best penciler he's ever seen. He says,
Yeah.
better than me, better than Jim. He talks often about how when he met Mark, I think he's got like a hetero man crush on him because he's like, oh my God, it was basically Conan drawing himself. He goes, here's Mark Silvestri, this big muscular
Yeah.
guy comes out of the pool and he's
Yeah.
talking about how his beautiful girlfriend and he had this silver Porsche and he lived on the water in Malibu,
Yeah.
from all his X-Men royalties. And
Yeah.
he talks about that. And he talks about how they had to sway him and Jim, and all the stories about Image. But he tells a story that I got such a kick out of. He was telling a story about Wizard and Gareb Shamus, and he mentioned that you were there. He mentioned Matt Hawkins, and he mentioned who was around him, who could testify. And these are his words, everyone. He said he calls Gareb Shamus. Something happened in Wizard that he was very unhappy about. And he goes, hey, Gareb, you in the office? He goes, yeah. He goes, well, listen, I'm going to take a plane right now. I'm going to be at your office at whatever time, and I'm going to kick your ass. And like
Yeah. I'm
Gareb freaked
pretty
out.
sure. I remember him saying something kind of like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So do you remember that? Like, what can you share about that experience?
Ah,
Because Rob's a tiny guy. He's a small guy.
no, no, he's not. Not really. I mean, Rob,
Really?
I wouldn't fuck with Rob. I mean,
You don't you don't think he's
Rob's kind of,
tiny?
no, he's kind of stocky, man. I
I don't
wouldn't
know,
fuck with
dude. I
Rob.
bumped into him like 3 years ago in New York. I mean, granted, I'm 6'5", but Rob to me was like, a very small, diminutive person.
Well, I don't see him that way. He's gotten a little thinner as he's gotten older, but especially in his 20s and 30s, he was buff. At least I thought. I was always kind of rail skinny. He
Now,
was a
I
kind of a
didn't.
stocky, buff, muscular guy.
I don't
Uh,
remember that. I like
yeah, and
not that he wasn't, but like back then I wasn't reading Rob stuff.
right.
But I knew of Rob Liefeld and Image and all that, but I never really observed him. So yeah, you were there with him,
And
buff
Rob's one
guy.
of these quiet's the wrong word. I'm sorry. He's one of these
Yeah.
intense motherfuckers,
Oh,
like
he's very intense.
he's definitely not a chihuahua barking. He's kind of something else. I mean, he's not all bark and no bite. I mean, the guy, like I said, I don't know. I wouldn't fuck with Rob.
All right. So
And
speaking of,
Garrett Sheamus couldn't take Rob.
okay, yeah, because I never like the only thing I know about Garib is I saw his face like in Wizard, but I
Right.
never like saw him or Rob at that time, like who was bigger, who was.
I know them both. I've known them both for decades.
Yeah.
Garib's a good guy. He does his fine artwork now, and he
Yeah.
does trading cards. He's a nice enough guy. I don't think he wanted a physical altercation with Rob. Rob just, Yeah, I that's one of those stories that if you hadn't told me that he said that, I probably would not. But I don't remember the exact, but I do remember him threatening to kick his ass. I'm going to get on
Yes.
a plane
Yeah.
and kick your ass. I remember something like that, and I don't remember the exact context. That's been a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a book called The Road to Image or something that was published in like 2000 or something like that, like after or maybe 2005, 15 years of Image or something like that. And it had a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. And it had a lot of early Image stories in it. And I remember reading a lot of those, and I'd forgotten a lot of them because no one talks about them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But
Rob still brings them up from time to time, or even in passing, like if he's telling a story and he's like, "Oh, and this is when I was with Image and this happened and how it
right.
ties into whatever's happening now." And yeah, he told that story, and I remember I was working when I listened to that podcast, and I got such the biggest kick out of it.
Yeah,
Um,
he definitely is a comics fan. I mean, the thing is,
oh, he
the
loves
thing
it.
Yeah, people criticize Rob, and I'm just kind of like, I always wonder. I'm like, who cares? I mean, so you don't like his art? Who cares? There's plenty of people that don't like my writing. There's plenty of people that don't like a lot of different people's art. Who gives a shit? The fact that people have this much energy and time to be negative, I guess that's the internet. But
Yeah.
I just roll my eyes at it, and people, like Rob, or we did. Mark did a Youngblood 100 cover, and he's never done a piece for Rob ever, and so that was the first time he did Youngblood. And I thought it looked pretty cool. So I asked Mark if it would be cool if we posted it up on our own feeds. And since it was his art, we did. And so we put it up on the Top Cow feeds. And then we started getting people starting to trash Rob on there. So I just deleted them. It's just, I was like, come on. I mean, it's sort of crazy to me. I'm like, why do you care? Who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah. But he has like a devoted following, and he always talks about he's on that new thing, Whatnot, and he
Yeah.
talks about he's like, yeah, he goes, I sell this much, overseas, and I sell this much here, and he talks about how you had mentioned internationally, like he's got maybe even a bigger following over there for a lot of the stuff that he does.
That is probably true. I definitely was involved in helping him set up probably a lot of his international sales in the early 90s because I did do that. I went to the Frankfurt Book Fair for Extreme twice to help set up international licenses. And yeah, I could tell you that all the core Image titles did very well overseas. I see that's the thing is you look at most titles by companies, like you pick any random company from the last 20 years, they don't have that because there's sort of this entrenched thing that happened in the 90s where people were able to get in. And since then, there haven't been a lot of new series. There've been some, but like Bone, for example, the Jeff Smith's Bone does very well internationally. But pick a book from the last 15, 20 years by a new Wonderkin, self-publisher like a Dave Sim or a Jeff Smith or a new publisher like a Zenoscope or a Scout or any of these. I don't know. I mean, I don't mean to single anyone out. I don't know. Maybe they do have some foreign, but I've not seen it. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's not attacking any one of those companies individually. I'm just saying they missed out on the establishing of books in the 90s and especially in Europe, big six languages over there. And there was a point in Germany alone where Witchblade there was a company called Splitter that was publishing hundreds of thousands of copies a month of Witchblade back when Turner was doing it, which was almost three or four times the sales of just the US alone. Other big markets, Brazil, huge market, Brazil.
Wow. I wouldn't have known that, but it makes sense though, because just like the Chinese, the Asian population floats to certain movies like Venom. Venom was successful based off of the international sales, apparently, as
Yeah,
opposed to here, they were kind of, lukewarm. So yeah,
yeah.
that makes complete sense depending on what the culture's into.
And my soon-to-be wife, number four, that's a long story. This will be my fourth wife.
Hey, I'm too deep, so yeah, I understand.
You're on two or three?
Well, this will be the third is somewhere in the universe, but two in the
Fair.
past. So yeah.
Gotcha. So yeah, this will be my fourth. Um, I don't know. It's the funny thing is, I didn't want to marry the third one or this one. Not that I wouldn't want to marry them. They're wonderful people. I live with a non-issue down here. The point is, she works for Sony. She runs international theatrical marketing, and Venom was one of hers. That's big picture story. But I joke with her all the time. I'm like, obviously I'm super great at marriage. Why would you want to marry me?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, speaking of that, I did notice on your email it says Facebook self-loathing narcissist.
Yes, that was a my first wife called me that after we got divorced, and I thought it was funny, so I took it as my Facebook meme, and that was like in 2009, I think.
Well, narcissists are hard to live with. My second ex-wife was a narcissist, and but I didn't know until I went to therapy and all that stuff. And now
Yeah,
it's like
I don't
meeting people and
I
yeah.
don't really think I'm a narcissist. I just thought it was funny. She just
No, sure.
called me that.
You're a self-loathing narcissist. Yeah.
And I thought self-loathing narcissist was kind of an oxymoron. And then when I went into therapy for other stuff, they said, no, that's actually true. Narcissists are self-loathing. That's part of their mentality. And I'm like,
Correct.
and then they're like, why do you call yourself this? I'm like, it was a joke. And now I've had it for 20 years,
Yeah.
too late to
So,
change.
so you can appreciate where I'm coming from, the narcissist thing, because narcissist you think is like someone who's full of themselves, but it's not. It's a whole undercurrent of things, and
Yeah.
it's complicated and all that other stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah, I appreciate that moment of clarity. So with Image right now, what's booming there? Like I know Jeff Johns and the guys over at Ghost Machine had their stuff. Spawn's still coming out. Like what's going on? You guys got Transformers or something now with
That's Skybound is doing
that's I'm sorry, I
Transformers.
apologize.
No. We're doing Witchblade in Darkness, and Mark wants to do a new Cyber Force. So for us, it's all about going back to the basics, which is crazy to me. We're relaunching all these books from the '90s, and we continue to do miniseries and various things. Like what's big at Image overall is it's the same stuff. I mean, it's always shocking what works. Like Dork is working really well right now.
Yeah.
White
Yeah.
Sky is doing really well right now, and White Sky is one of those ones that I'm really happy for Bill Harms, William Harms, the writer of that, because he wrote three series for us, Impaler, Shotgun Wedding, and 39 Minutes that came out, some of them 15, 20 years ago. And I'm like, and then suddenly he's an overnight sensation with this White Sky book. So we're going back to press on his series, and he's doing a new one with us. But it's and that's that case in point where I talked to you about like some of the best books we've put out. I always thought Bill was this fantastic writer, and we put out three different series by him over the course of 10 years, and it didn't really spark, And then suddenly he puts out this White Sky book, and it just takes off. And right place, right time. Just got to be able to capitalize. For us, fortunately, we have the three series. We have, still the rights. We have a good working relationship with them. We'll put them back in print. Start working with them on some new stuff. That's the way to do it. I mean, for us, we're lucky that we have the tentpole properties. Witchblade, Darkness, Aphrodite 9, Magdalena. We have a few that people know, and then we're able to launch stuff like and some of my more favorite stuff, like we're doing a book called The Thing on the Doorstep, which is an H.P. Lovecraft short story that Simon Burks and Willie Roberts are doing for us as a miniseries, and it's about to wrap. It definitely floated below the radar. They did a book for us before called Antarctica, which also kind of floated a little bit below the radar. But these are fantastic books, and it's one of the things I've really pioneered in the last couple of years at Top Cow, and it has been working. If you go to our website, topcow.com, there's actually a free comics section where there's 40 or 50 first issues of various series. And I constantly tweeting them out. Here's a free link. Check this out. Try it. Give it a read. See if you like it. There's more available, and kind of to entice people that way. Because I've said this time and time again. I think readers are more important than collectors. Collectors are very fickle, and they kind of that's like chasing stock market valuations and stuff like that. I understand the value of collecting in comics, obviously, and we create books intentionally to be collectibles. But if you can nail someone as a reader, as a fan of someone who likes Witchblade and likes this creative team, you've got them potentially for life. That's a lot more than a $20 variant.
Well, certainly, I agree with you. Yeah, that's something I don't that doesn't register when it comes to Image. You guys doing like all these crazy variants for different projects. Is
It
that
just
correct?
works every time. People complain about it and then they want them. I mean, like I don't know, dude. It's hard to fathom. I mean, at this point, I think variants aren't really like that experimental or new or different. They've become a bit of the norm, and it's not just in comics. I mean, you look at Novels now come out with multiple covers. Magazines have, well, magazines don't really exist anymore, but they used to have multiple covers. You know, any physical media comes out with usually multiple variations now, and even like, I still have vinyl. I have a record player, and I sometimes go buy new vinyl, and even now, even though they're 50 fucking dollars for a new record, but they'll have, two or three covers to it. And they're super limited. Those things are probably worth more than anything else. But if you like quality music, I got to tell you, man, hook up a speaker to a record player. It sounds 5,000 times better than Spotify and Apple Music.
Seriously.
Oh my God. I mean, it will shock you how quality the old school record player music is. Just a record player connected to a speaker, to listen to a song, and then go listen to it on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, and it will shock you the quality level of the music. We've become so used to these compressed musical files that we've lost something, and no one has these speakers anymore, and they'll pump music in through your television. So, I mean, the quality that you'll get on a music video through your, HKTV is probably better than you're going to get through your headphones. But
Wow.
yeah, I always tell people, save, listen to a record. It'll shock you. The quality of the music is infinitely better.
See, now I would have never guessed that because I remember as a kid, my mom having like this big old record player with these giant speakers, you know what I mean? But behind like the glass door you had to open, right? And I remember like you needed to have that little yellow one for the certain ones that you put on, and like if the thing skipped, and you could hear the you could hear the needle playing on the record. Like you would hear that
Yeah,
fuzziness.
they're
So,
a lot better now. I
oh, they
mean,
are?
and they've sort of perfected that 30 years ago.
Okay.
I mean, after it didn't really matter anymore. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, you can go to Best Buy and buy a record player for $300. I mean, it's not expensive. Problem is the media now is expensive. I mean, if you want to buy a new album, it's expensive. I mean, you can
See,
buy old stuff.
I didn't know records were even that expensive anymore. Like, but obviously they're not being mass produced like they once were, but $50,
No,
come
they're
on.
well, like they'll do it's the 50th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon. They'll do a
Yeah.
limited EP release, and I'll want to get one of those. And sometimes those are two, three, $400.
Wow. Because
So,
I love Sinatra, and I think playing
uh-huh.
a nice Sinatra record would be really classy, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that intrigues me. That intrigues me. Okay, cool.
yeah, try it. Just check it out. I mean, maybe you can rent one, or maybe you can find someone that has one and just listen to it and try it. Because I think you will be shocked. Because I've always had a record player, but I didn't listen to it for forever. And then one of my sons one day said, those are better quality than iPhone. And I'm like, what? And he's like, no, listen to it. And then I did. And this is 10, 15 years ago, and I
Wow.
was shocked. I was shocked. So worth
Dude,
checking out.
thank you, because I haven't listened to a record probably since I was like maybe 12. It's been like 30
Oh, they
years.
they
So,
they went to cassettes,
mhm.
and then went to CDs,
CDs.
and then so it became quickly a passe thing. But if you most audio files, like Eric Stevenson is kind of an audio file, and he's a guy I know who's a big phonograph guy.
Okay. Now, is Eric the publisher now, or?
Yeah, he's been the publisher of Image Comics for quite a while, and he's been a partner at Image now. He was rewarded with the partnership, and he's probably there. I don't know how many publishers there have been, but he's been the longest for sure, and probably, in my opinion, the best because he's not one of the partners. Two of the publishers were partners, and that's hard to do that when you're a partner and a publisher. I mean, Eric was a little more balanced, I think, and he's always been, I think, really well respected in the writing community. And Eric is a fantastic writer. I'm a little sad that he doesn't write more because I've always been a fan of his work, and he just doesn't seem to write a lot. I mean, that's a very intense job, and you know, not a lot of time to do other stuff.
Well, Rob speaks glowingly of him. Like from time
Yeah.
to time, he'll mention Eric, and he talks about their earlier relationship and where it is now, and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
he glosses Rob glosses over a few things. Like he forgets about how he set Eric and I up to be in massive competition with each other because that was probably about a decade where
you
Eric
haven't
and I
heard that.
hated each other. And
Okay.
because he set me up as I was the editor for the Maximum Press line, and Eric was the editor for the Extreme line, and we were sort of at odds. And And then when Evangeline and Battlestar Galactica started doing really well, and Cyber and some of these books that I was sort of managing, and then we were going to move Youngblood to Maximum Press, and that's what actually got Rob kicked out of Image. I
See
was
now,
all there for that.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay. So you open the door, right? So when it comes to like Evangeline, like he talks about that from time to time too. I think he says he's working on like a movie. Like I think he said he sold the rights or
Yeah, I'm sure he has. I mean, we've sold the rights to half a dozen properties probably 15 times that have never been made. I mean
right.
that's the nature of Hollywood. I mean, I think we've had 55 or so different options and five things made in our career. So, you can option the same. Like Postal is a book I created and wrote largely, and I think I've optioned that thing four times. Twice I thought there was a TV pilot that was going to get made and aired, and all four times nothing happened with it. So, you have these. That's why I always tell you see these people come out. Oh, I optioned my. I met with Ryan Reynolds and this guy, or and he optioned my book, and I'm like, oh, good luck to you. And 90% of them go nowhere.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Rob gets some stuff on the air finally. I mean, they've run out of Marvel and DC things to make.
Yeah. Yeah. He mentioned Evangeline. He told a story about how he got Battlestar Galactica and how he ran that through its course. And then as you mentioned, he got kicked out of now you say kicked out of Image. He tells the whole like ugly story as much as, from his perspective. And he tells it pretty clean. And he's like, basically, and again, this is as comfortable as you are to share whatever you want. So please don't feel like I don't want to infringe on you. He said like he felt like he was printing so many books and paying most of the overhead and so that he was really PO'd about that. And then he talks about like he still has the letter from Todd and like the body of Image, and he's read that on the air, like saying like you're in violation and so on and so forth. So anything you want to or you
Well,
feel
I mean,
comfortable
I
saying?
don't think I think Rob. I have heard Rob tell the story, and I think it mostly is true. He was going to move Youngblood to Maximum Press, and Todd
Hmm.
flipped out because it was Image's first book, and he said don't do that, and then Rob did it, and they kicked him out.
So you think that's the primary like catalyst as opposed to like Rob talking about he said he was printing like so many comics, whereas
I
Todd
don't know,
only
dude.
had
I was not privy to some of the partner
okay,
discussions and stuff like
okay.
that. I just know I've heard Rob tell this story. I think I've heard the story from Rob, but I do know that Image was pissed off that he had moved Youngblood to Maximum Press, and it was a book that I was going to be the editor of at Maximum Press because that was my line of books. So. I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's anything anyone in there
A-
is hiding because it's all been
Anything new?
reconciled because Rob is back at Image working
Yeah.
with all these guys and everyone is hunky dory, and Mark and Rob in the early days, I don't think were very chummy, and Mark just did a cover for him now. So I think it's all water under the bridge, and I don't know enough to, it's not that I'm trying to hide anything. I kind
No,
of
no,
don't,
no.
I
I
don't really
understand.
care.
No, I understand. Water under the bridge. It's just such a fascinating thing. It's just kind of like, wow. But I really appreciated how open he was about it and like the way he explained it, it made sense. But yeah, he did mention that he's gotten Mark. He's mentioned, like a whole bunch of other guys, now that he's got the rights back to Youngblood. He's super jazzed for it, the 33 and all that.
Yeah, I'm excited for him and for it, and happy that Mark is part of that. And I think Image right now is doing really, really well. And Image has been, with the exception of the 1 year that I was at Awesome Comics with Rob, which was not part of Image. I've been at Image my entire career. I was with them at Extreme, which is Image, for 6 years. Then I was at well, 5 years, and then 1 year at Awesome, 1 year at Image Central, and then the rest of it at Top Cow. So, and Top Cow's always been an Image, other than when Top Cow left Image briefly. People forget this, but Darkness #1 was actually not an Image comic.
No, it wasn't.
It was a Top Cow comic because that was when Top Cow had left Image Comics.
Oh, I didn't even know
Top
that.
Cow left Image Comics very briefly. And I don't think this is a secret because I've told this story before, but I was trying to hire Mike Turner away from
Well, you're
Top Cow
smart. You're a
at
smart man.
Extreme.
You're a
And so
smart man.
Mike and I were friends, and he's the Godfather, or was, I don't know how that works. My first wife was Catholic, so she wanted a Godfather. So we asked Mike if he would be the Godfather to my older son, and he said yes. I'm not Catholic, and so I don't know if that carries beyond death. I don't know. But R.I.P. Mike. That's been a long time now. When did he die? 20 years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
That's crazy to me because he was younger than me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
He was a great artist. Great
yeah,
artist.
it's a weird thing because he passed away the day Wanted came out in the movie theater. So I will always be able to look up exactly when he died for that reason because it was, and we were all at Wizard World Chicago, and I remember that because I remember he had passed away, and Aspen had a booth there, and they shut it down and left. And that was
Wow.
Friday. That was a Friday at Wizard World Chicago, 2009, I think.
Wow.
So long time ago.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I did not
All
know.
good. No, and most of these stories, I don't know if I have that book right here. I might, but there was a book. I don't think anything I've told you is not in this book.
The image one you mentioned?
Yeah, it's
I saw the documentary on it's on Amazon.
yeah, you know, memory is a funny thing, and being a science guy, I realize that memory is not infallible, and I sometimes will talk to one of my sisters about memories that she and I have of our childhood, and they're radically different, including who was there, what happened, and order of events. So, how people remember things, and I've listened to Mark and Rob and Todd, and people tell stories from the early days of Image, and not how I remember it. But who cares? You know, I have no desire to
Litigate.
counter anyone because
Yeah,
I don't know for sure, but it is interesting how memory works. But no, there's a book called I can't remember what it's called. It was something about the road to independence is what it was called, Image Comics,
okay.
and almost all these stories were related in there.
Okay, cool, cool. Um, Now you've mentioned Todd a couple of times. You got a Todd impression you want to drop?
No, I don't do impressions, but I like Todd. I think he's a great
You said
guy.
that so flatline. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I a lot of people do Todd impressions. Even Mark will do a Todd
Uh,
impression. And I think Mark was just hanging out with Todd because Todd's daughter just got married
oh,
and they were
cool.
all hanging out together. But Todd, I think is probably to me smart business guy. You know, I
Absolutely.
think he
Yeah.
diversified himself. I think my only early favorite image story of Todd was Rob and Todd used to talk all the time at night while they were both drawing, and they would be on speakerphone chatting while they were drawing. And you would walk into Rob's office, and the two of those guys would be on the speakerphone. So you'd walk in and sit down, and you'd have a conversation with Todd and Rob while they were doing their thing and discussing this comic or that comic. And they were, you know, for me, it was weird because, like I said, I wasn't as big of a fanboy. So spending 3 hours talking about John Byrne is more torturous than
Yeah.
fun. Um, and but it was cool to be able to talk to
Yeah.
those guys. And I also didn't have the reverence for McFarlane that a lot of people did because I didn't know who he was. I didn't know who
Yeah.
Todd was. I didn't know who Jim Lee was. I didn't know who any of these people were when I first started in comics. I didn't know who Rob was. Had no knowledge of any of them. And but they were famous, man. I mean, Rob would walk through the airport and people would ask him for his autograph in the airport. You know, I've told my sons because they ask me when they see me signing comics at shows and stuff, they're like, "Is that weird?" I'm like, "No, I've been doing it for 30 some years now." But I don't get recognized in public ever, really. I think it's happened to me two or three times in my whole life where someone's like, "Aren't you Matt Hawkins, that writer guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." You know, it's just sort of weird for me because no one recognizes me. But Rob used to get stopped in airports and in restaurants, and people would come over and ask him for his autograph. People forget how truly famous he was in the early 90s. And I think that is why some people are such haters, is it really bred a lot of jealousy, you know. But back to my Todd story, when Rob started dating Joy Liefeld or Joy Creel, who became Joy Liefeld, his wife, he started not hanging out at night as much anymore. You know, we would all work late hours, and so Rob would leave to go hang out with his girlfriend, and so he would not be there sometimes when Todd would call. And this was pre-cell phones. You know, no one had
Yeah.
cell phones. We all had office phones. You'd hit the speaker and you'd sit there and chat. And so we all knew at Extreme that whoever like 2 or 3 nights a week, Todd would call looking for Rob to chat, and Rob wouldn't be there. So whoever picked up the phone got stuck talking to Todd for 3 hours. And
Yeah.
no, it was fun at times, but
Yeah.
sometimes when you're about to walk out the door and you pick up the phone and then you're sitting there for 3 hours,
No,
it's
I understand. I have friends. I have friends like that. Be like, yeah, I just called you real quick, and I know it's going to be like a 50-minute conversation. It's
Yeah, I just at some point I just stopped answering the phone, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
someone would always answer it because I mean Todd, there were times when somebody in the bullpen would pick up the phone, and then I'd walk out in the bullpen, and Todd was talking to the six guys in the bullpen.
yeah. When did you ever answer the phone and he's like, "Hey, bud," like, is
Yeah,
that his thing? Hey, bud.
yeah, he
Yeah,
would do that. He still does that.
yeah, yeah.
Todd's always been very nice to me, very
Yeah.
kind, and always very comes out of his way to come say hi to me at shows. So I've been fortunate. Like I said, I know a few famous people, and Henry Winkler's another one who comes by and says hi to me, which is a weird one for me, and which I love because
Yeah. The
I
Fonz.
met him at Calgary Comic Con like a decade and a half ago, and it's another just crazy random story, which is cool to be in comics. Is I was in the green room and I was sitting there just having that lunch, and so he comes down and sits by me, starts eating, and I have this policy where I leave famous people alone. I just tend to be quiet and not talk to anyone. And but some douchey security guard comes over and asks Henry Winkler if I'm bothering him.
What?
And I'm like reading the thing, ignoring it. I'm like, what? And he's like, no, no, he's not bothering me at all. And then he's like, what's your name, man? And so we start talking. And so it was just this weird moment where since that time, he's come by my booth and come by to say, hey, Matt, good to see you, and remembers my name and comes by and says hi. And uh, it's weird. Now, that was all pre-COVID. I've wondered. I haven't done as many shows. I've only done San Diego and a couple shows, but there was a point where I was doing 10 shows a year, probably from 2009 to about 2018. I was doing 10, 15 shows a year. And when you do that many and you get in the rotation, you see people all the time. But I don't think I've seen Henry Winkler in 6 or 7 years now. So I'm not sure if he would recognize me still, which would make me sad. But I'd say he was the nicest guy. I've worked with Seth Green and Milo Ventimiglia. Um, yeah, I mean, I was there when Rob would parade, people through the studio. One of the guys that used to come in the studio all the time was Mario Lopez. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, the Saved by the Bell guy.
Yeah, yeah, because Rob's wife's sister, they're triplets, and one of them was on Saved by the Bell.
Really?
Leanna
Right?
Creel was an actress, and she was on Saved by the Bell. She was actually Slater, or I think he was AC Slater, one of his second later girlfriend.
Okay.
And that was Rob Liefeld's wife's triplet sister. They're
Yeah.
identical triplets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and they don't look, the funny thing is they don't look anything alike. I mean, they look very,
Really?
I mean, yeah, I can immediately tell you which one is which, even to this day, even though I don't think with the exception of Joy, I don't think the other two would remember who I was because I didn't hang out with those guys post like 1996.
But Mario Lopez was the dude in the studio?
He came in the studio quite a bit, yeah. And I think that was before he sort of blew up into who he was. I think he was on Saved by the Bell, but
Yeah.
Rob walked through the studio. I mean, there was James Cameron came through. I think
Really?
Will Smith came through. I think Tom Cruise was there at one
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
I mean, it was the people forget how famous Image was in the first 2 or 3 years. And look, it's become a completely different thing now. And that it's survived this long and thrived. I mean, we're the third largest comic book publisher in the North America and arguably one of the strongest independent publishers in the world. And we still publish hundreds of books where people retain their creator-owned rights. And I love it. I mean, I can't imagine doing anything else.
The non-comic book guy loves making comic books. All right.
I like, yeah. I mean, there are some comics that I do. It's just part of the job,
Yeah.
And there are books like I did a book called The Clock, which was probably one of my personal favorites. I wrote it, Colleen Doran drew it. It was unfortunate timing because it came out, I think, in March of 2020, and it's about a pandemic.
Mm.
The clock was named for the population clock. The idea was there was a cabal that was trying to half the population by weaponizing cancer, and so I wrote this whole like mystery thriller about that, very science fiction heavy, and and then Diamond stopped distributing. So the first two issues came out, and then there was like a 7 month gap, and then we just released the trade. So the third and fourth, people ask me all the time where the third and fourth issues of that miniseries were, and I'm like, oh, they never came out. There was a first issue, a second issue, and a trade that because of the how it worked with COVID. So the invisible issues.
The invisible issues. But you said they're in trade though, yeah?
Yeah, the clock is a trade. It's underperformed compared to a lot of my other stuff. I'm not sure a lot of people know about it, which is weird because I think Colleen Doran is a huge commodity, and I need to do more to promote it. I actually just added the first issue to topcow.com as a free download, and I'm going to start pushing that because it's coming up on I think the 5 or 6 year release of it. So I'm going to start promoting that a little more.
Okay. And I know Colleen Duran. She's an inker. She's on X. I follow her work on X and I enjoy it.
She's a penciler and an inker. She
Uh,
pencils and inks her own stuff.
yeah, because I see her mostly ink things, and I'm like, wow. And I always tell her, wow, that looks beautiful, and she'll respond too. So she's a friendly person. That's very nice.
I think most of what you're seeing is what she's penciling and inking.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't really ink other people. Most of
No?
her stuff,
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
All right.
she did Sandman, she did Good Omens with Neil Gaiman. She was a very frequent collaborator of Neil Gaiman in the early days. Not so much anymore since his fall from grace, but she does a lot of really interesting, good stuff. I'm a big fan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are you editing anything now, or?
Yeah, I edit. There's the Cabal at Top Cow, which is me, Ryan Cady, and Mark Silvestri. I kind of joke about it because we're three different generations. Mark's a boomer, I'm a Gen X, and Ryan is millennial. And the three of us edit everything sort of collectively. Phil Smith is another guy who is more of a production guy, but he's definitely involved. We sort of tend to do things as a group and go through all the things. And there's another guy named Vince Longo who does design for us. Most of Top Cow is a surprisingly small company staff-wise compared to some other companies, and we're able to do that because of Image Comics. I mean, Image has 40 some employees, and we draft off of them.
So do you guys sit in a conference room and like say what's on the docket and divvy up the work,
It's
or like,
No, it's just like what you and I are doing right now. We have
oh,
a weekly Google Meet. 2:30 on Wednesday is when we discuss stuff. Fridays, I have a production meeting with the guys without Mark. And then we usually have a creative meeting once or twice a week. That's me, Ryan, and Mark. That's a Google. So usually hour or two a day on a Google Meet where we're having a conversation. I mean, we all live relatively close to each other, but I never see them in person. We had an office until COVID, and our lease came up in the middle of COVID. And so I decided not to renew it because I was like, well, so we just took everything and stuck it in storage because we didn't know what was going to happen. And
sure.
so rather than signing a new lease, we're like, and then we all just got kind of used to working from home.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's one.
there is an actual image office. It's up in
Yeah,
Portland, wherever they are.
but
And
there is no Top Cow office.
not anymore, no.
Not
But there
anymore.
was, we had an office for 30 some years.
Yeah.
And eh, no, 29 years. 29 years there was Top Gun office. We're talking about opening up another office now because there's more of a need to do it. And we have actually thought about the idea of, I miss sort of the getting around the table and shooting the shit. It is not the same on a Google Meet scenario.
Sure.
And Google Meets, we tend to be more cut and dry and move on. So here's the agenda. Here's the list of stuff to go through. Um, and I don't know. I miss the bullpens and the conference room. So I have a feeling we're probably going to open a new office. So
Yeah,
it's
I
been
can. The juices definitely must flow better in person, you know.
it depends. I mean, like I said, I've had this conversation with Mark, and I've lately it's like, how much longer are we going to do this? I mean, like I said, I'm pushing 60. He's pushing 70. I mean, we're not spring chickens. Um, how much longer do we actually want to keep doing this? And that's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I could probably do it for at least 10, 15 years if I wanted to. But I've got good health. I don't feel like a 60-year-old. I'm only 57, so I'm not really 60 yet. But it is amazing how fast time flies. I mean, my sons are older now, which is weird. Like one moved to New York. My younger son lives in Manhattan.
Wow. Does he is he like you or a physicist or what?
No, he's a model actually, and wants to be a writer. He went to USC Film School, and just did a PacSun modeling thing. He's also tall like you. He's 6'6" and very thin, and You know, he's got good genes. He's lucky.
Dude, I love how dry you are. You're awesome. I love it. I love it. I dig it.
Thanks, man.
No, thank you. Thank you. When I first saw you on with Mark on Omar channel, I was like, dude, that guy reminds me of Glenn Powell.
One pound. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah, I've heard that a few times. Like, not just Glenn Powell, but there's another one. The guy from Tracker, which I always take as a huge compliment because these are Josh something. It's like famous, good-looking actor guys. I'm like, oh, thanks, thanks, thanks.
Yeah, yeah, I'll take it.
I'll
Yeah,
take it, you know.
yeah.
But I don't know what the thing is about my generation, and I don't, maybe your generation is the same, but I remember 60-year-olds as being fucking old, you
Dude, they were
know.
like ancient. At 40 something, you look like, like they were 60. It was like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 57 years old, and I run into people all the time who think, they don't think I'm 30, but they think I'm in my mid to late 40s, and I'm like, because I remember my grandfather died when he was like 61, and he looked ancient. I've seen photos of him. He was fat, bald, had full head of gray hair, and so it's weird. I mean, I fortunately in the last couple of years have really straightened myself up, went ketogenic diet, don't eat carbs, don't eat sugar anymore, quit drinking alcohol, quit smoking weed. Got rid of all that stuff. It's amazing how all my health issues that had developed in my 50 years all went away.
No, it really is, dude. Like I'm a big believer in that. Like I got a meet and greet coming up with some friends. We're gonna get together in July, a big convention, and like I'm gonna be cutting out the sugars and the carbs and just sticking to protein and broccoli and carrots. And it really does work. And you feel a
Yeah,
lot better. Like for instance, like do you have pets? Well, I saw you
yeah,
had cat, right?
two cats.
Two
Yeah.
cat, but no dogs. All right. So I have a dog. When I take him to the vet, the first thing they said to me is, "What are you feeding him?" But when we go to the doctor, they don't ask us that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
take this pill right away.
What are you eating?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like the dichotomy is so amazing. But cutting out carbs and sugars and alcohol, like that takes care of like diabetes, like
Yeah.
Crohn's, all that stuff.
Oh, fortunately, I've never really been overweight.
Yeah,
I'm genetically just kind of skinny. And I've always exercised though. So that was always my saving grace. And, but I was starting to develop some health issues. My blood pressure was going up. And I had various things. And so doctors wanted to start putting me on things. So I'm like, and then my parents had been on a shit ton of medication and I've seen people go on a shit ton of medication. And I'm like, I don't want this. So
dude,
I
my
started
mom's like that. Yeah, my mom.
yeah, and I just started researching it and I'm like, what can I do to not be on any medication at all? And I'm on no medication,
Good for you, man.
and my blood pressure is fine. And look, I miss certain things? Yeah, I miss bread. I do miss bread on occasion, and I miss potatoes on occasion. But I don't miss alcohol at all, And it was one of those things where I really wondered if I was an alcoholic because I'd been drinking since college and drank pretty regularly, and then hit 50, late 50s, and suddenly being like, oh, I wonder if I could even quit, you know. But I always tell people if you think you have a drinking problem, try to do quick carbs and sugar at the same time because your body will go into more shock over the carbs than the alcohol.
Yeah,
Because
dude,
I
that's
was
true.
dreaming about gnocchi, and I wasn't thinking
Oh,
about alcohol at all.
I love gnocchi, man. I love gnocchi.
Oh.
That's like one of my go-tos.
I have eaten a couple things carb related, like heavy carbs. Like I eat cruciferous vegetables and stuff that has carbs in it like that. But I've not eaten like a potato or bread in forever. But I had a potato, like a little part of a baked potato, about 2 weeks ago because someone had cooked it for me and I felt bad. So I'm like, I don't want to not eat what they made. So I ate part of it. It made me so sick. I
Really?
had not had a processed carb like that in my system in so long that when I ate that, I got super nauseous. I couldn't sleep. It was awful. And I'm like, you know what? That tells me all I need to know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I found that with drinking
That's
too.
it.
With drinking myself, I like I might have a drink like once every 2 years. But
Heart is so
yeah,
bad for you, and it's
it really is.
just awful for you. And the thing is, I was drinking, vodka tonics, and that was my thing, and like Jack and Diets. So I was drinking hard alcohol mixed with things. And beer and wine is not nearly as bad for you as hard alcohol.
Sure.
But and I intermittently fast and I still work out. I ride my bike around. I just don't want to be infirm because I've met too many, and it is interesting to me. Like I was at one of my fraternity brothers' funeral today. You know what I mean? I mean, this is a guy that's my age, maybe a year older than me, and he drank himself to death. And it's sort of that sad thing. He's got a wife and kids, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
he's
my old
calm.
man did that. My old man did that.
Yeah, it's drank himself to death. And I had another fraternity brother friend of mine a couple years ago that inexplicably, wife, kids, family, seemingly great life, and just jumped down an elevator shaft, killed himself. And that's what I was joking with a friend of mine earlier. I'm like, in our 30s we used to be always going to weddings. In your 50s it's all funerals. You
Yeah.
know, and I'll be sad when Arnold Schwarzenegger and people like that die because those are the people that were on movies when I was growing up as a kid, or when
Yeah.
Harrison Ford and
Stallone and
yeah,
yeah.
less Stallone. I think he's a douchebag, but
Not
those
nice.
guys. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna miss Harrison Ford is gonna be a hard one for me because I actually have a Harrison Ford story if you want to hear it.
Well,
Uh,
first of all, I do want to hear it, but when you talk about douchebags, a lot of people think he's a douchebag, but you love him.
well, I have heard that, but so having heard that he was not nice, I saw him.
Is
Well,
this your story?
this is my story. Yeah, I was in
Hit it.
Culver
Hit it.
City, and Ford's filling station is his son's restaurant, and it was in Culver City. And I lived in Culver City, and I would walk by, and I'd eaten there several times, and I knew who his son was and seen him, but I'd never seen Harrison Ford there. So I'm walking with my 5-ish-year-old older son in front of this restaurant, and out walks Harrison Ford, his son, and Calista Flockhart. And I knew I recognized the three of them right away. And like I said, I just had this policy. I didn't say anything to any. And so my son was 5, so this is probably 22 years ago, 20 years ago. And but my son's like, "Daddy, it's Indiana Jones!" Top of his lungs, like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, motherfucker, because like I said, I really do try not to do that. And to Harrison Ford's credit, he turns around and goes, "Hey, little man," gives him a fist bump. And my son was like all excited, and they didn't left him alone. I didn't say anything. I'm like, "Oh, thank you." And he's like, "No worries." And he walked across the street, and that was it. So that I thought that was my Harrison Ford story. And it's not a great story. I have a Michael Jackson story too, which is another one that's funny because I when I first started working in comics, Golden Apple was on Melrose, and I didn't know anything about like I said, I didn't know comics, and Rob Liefeld knew very quickly that I didn't know anything about comics. So he's like, "I want you on New Comics Day," and I think it was Tuesday back then. You're going to go work the counter at Golden Apple for a few weeks to learn about comics on New Comic Book Day. And I'm like, "Okay, great." So I go down there and I start working with Bill Leibowitz, owned the store at the time. Worked at the store on New Comic Day, and I'm there for a couple months. And one late afternoon on New Comic Day, Bill comes out of the back and says, "Everyone out of the store! The store is closed." And Bill is this 6'5", 300-pound, big, voluptuous, or not
Yeah, his
voluptuous,
son's a big dude too. Yeah.
big dude. Ryan. I like Ryan. Ryan is another story. I don't think he wanted to be a comics retailer. That's sort of when his dad died, he didn't have much choice. But oh well. So he told me at one point he wanted to do something else. I think he's happy with it now, but that's a separate aside. But Bill kicked everyone out of the store, and he's like, "Matt, you stay. You're gonna get a kick out of this." And he actually sent the two people working their home too, and they just left. And I'm just like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then there was this knock at the back door. He's like, "Matt, can you get that?" And so he set me up, and obviously, it was Michael Jackson because I said it was Michael Jackson's story. So this is probably 1993. I open the back door. It's fucking Michael Jackson and two big bodyguard dudes. And he's like, "Oh, hey, it's Bill here." And I'm like, "Yeah, come on in." And so for 10 minutes, I had a notepad, and Bill and I walked around. And he pointed, "I want one of these. I want one of these. I want one of these. I want one of these. Bill, can you just charge as soon as my state?" And he left. And
Dude,
that he was nice. I my one, he wouldn't remember me. But I chatted with Michael Jackson for 20 minutes while he was looking at toys and statues. And my one contribution is he was buying everything. He bought like $25,000 worth of shit. And but he's like, I like the Superman, but I like the Spawn too. Which one do you think is better? I said, oh, definitely Spawn. He's like, okay. So he took the Spawn.
So Matt Hawkins contributed to Michael Jackson's comic collection. Awesome.
I don't think he bought any comics. It
No?
was all statues and toys and memorabilia. I could be wrong. I don't know if he was a
Oh,
known
sure.
comic fan, but I don't remember that. I remember furiously writing down as he was pointing to all these different statues, and yeah, I got it is sometimes, in the early days, I would make fun of the old guys that be sitting at cons off in the corner laughing, to having a beer and by themselves and not hanging out and being social or going out late. And I realized that that's it's just what you become. You become the and I don't hang out at cons as much and socialize because one of the things that I have the trouble with, everyone wants jobs. Do you know what I mean? And there's so many artists and cover wannabe artists and so many things. And so I have a difficulty socializing and hanging out at events because people hit me up for work constantly and it drives me nuts. And we're a very small publisher. We publish only a handful of titles, so we don't genuinely have much work for anyone. And we work with who we work with, and we don't normally break people. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. That's,
No, I understand. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I get it. I get it.
yeah.
I get it. Um, Now, what with regards to Golden Apple, were you there for Rob's big signing when he like the helicopters were there and there were all those people? Was that
I
after?
think that was that might have been the signing that I met him at, where I got hired. I'm not sure if it
No,
was
you said Mile High.
what was the one where he got. Oh, it was
Go,
Golden Apple.
Golden Apple.
I think Golden Apple was before that. That was one where
Okay.
Easy E was at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
that
he
that
tells
was. I think that was 2 weeks before I met Rob.
okay, because he tells his Easy E story on the pod too, and he's like
Yeah,
Easy E showed him some like Uzis in the trunk, and he was like, "What? What?"
yeah, I've heard those stories and I've seen the pictures, so
Yeah,
I know that. And look, I certainly have embellished some stories probably over the years. I'm sure he's embellished a few, but who
sure,
knows?
sure,
I
sure.
mean,
That that's what we do when we get older too. Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
but I don't
No,
know.
I appreciate what you said. What we do when we get older, like I just want to be left alone, man.
Yeah, and I don't. My soon-to-be wife goes out with her friends and socializes a lot, and I realized, especially post-COVID, I don't know what happened. I just don't go out anymore. I stay home. I still play video games. I like to play
My
tabletop
man.
D&D and stuff like that, but I don't really have anyone to play in person.
Sure.
So I play, I had a group that I played with on Fantasy Grounds for years, and then we ended that 2 years ago when there was some disruption in the group, and I've not found another one since, but have been actively looking for a new game. There's a Paper Heroes, a store here not too far from where I live, where they have games, and I went in there and met the owner and talked to her for a little bit. Look around, it's all kids, a lot of kids playing Magic, a lot of kids playing Pokemon cards, and I just like I want to play with Gen X people. I want to play with Gen X people that don't like don't use drugs and don't just ragingly smoke and get fucked up because I got no problem with that if that's your thing, but I just don't want to be around that anymore, especially since I
Sure.
don't do it anymore. It's not a religious thing or a even a judgmental thing. I just it's hard for me to be around that and not participate.
No, I understand. I have I think I have a semi, if not complete, addictive personality myself. So I totally I totally get it, man. I totally get it. No, but
Oh,
so with every relationship, you say your girl, your fiance goes out and she's social. You could tell because it's like, you're the guy who sits there quiet and she must be the one who talks a lot, yeah?
I don't think so. In group
When you,
situations, yes. I
yeah,
think I'm probably the chattier person when it's just the two of us.
no, sure. That's usually how it is. Yeah,
Yeah, like when
yeah,
it's just her and I tend to chat with her a lot. But yeah, when we're in a group situation, unless it's my sons,
sure.
which is I probably hang out with the most. But and the other thing is when you work at home and you live at home, like my fiance, she goes to work every day at Sony, and she drives, she chooses to commute because we had a choice of moving into my place, which was 2 miles from where she works, or her place, which is 28 miles from where she works, and in LA, that's an hour commute. And she wanted to stay in her place, and I'm like, I work at home, that's fine. She chose the hour commute each way. Um, and but yeah, so I spend 12 hours a day alone here with the cats.
I can see that suits you just fine though, man.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
No, sure, sure. Yeah, I haven't been to LA. I've been to a few places, have not been to LA yet, but I heard the traffic is terrible and whatnot. So, yeah.
Oh, and you forget when you don't drive. I
Yeah,
don't go anywhere. Like
yeah.
I know Pavilions is about a mile from my house, and I usually that's a nice walk for me. The Target is 7/10 of a mile, so that's a nice walk for me. So I walk to these places 2, 3 times a week, and that's and get my stuff that I need. And so I very rarely drive anywhere. So it's weird when you drive and then you sit in traffic and you realize this is only 4 miles and it took me almost an hour. And it's just a waste of time.
No, I understand. Yeah, there's a main highway here, I-90. Everybody drives it. And from time to time it gets so backed up, especially during rush hour. Nothing like what you deal with, nothing like that. But it's like you're sitting in traffic and like, why didn't I just take the longer way home? What am I doing with myself?
Hey,
I know.
dude, how far are you from Elmira? Do you know where Elmira is?
Elmira. I haven't been to Elmira, but I'm probably about like an hour and a half, 2 hours from there, I'd say. Probably about an
I, I,
hour,
I
hour
was
and a
gonna
half.
say that's my only upper New York signing. Mark and I did for the Cyberforce Kickstarter back in 2012. We did a signing at Elmira that uh, it was in a high school gymnasium, and the only thing I remember about it was everyone in town worked at the prisons. I guess that's what Elmira is known for. It's a prison town, and
Yeah.
it was interesting. And
I
like that's the thing I've seen not just internationally. I've been to almost every state. I've never been to Hawaii or Alaska, but I've been to almost every state at various conventions and hung out. And a lot of times, like when you go to Houston for shows, they'll take you to NASA and give you the VIP tour. You go to Cape Canaveral in Florida. I mean, you get taken around and shown things, and it's fucking cool. I dig it.
I've seen only like when artists like post about the Lake Tahoe convention, and that looks gorgeous, Lake Tahoe.
I've been to Lake Tahoe. I've never been to convention there.
No, yeah, but
Oh,
yeah, they show like when they're not at the convention, like Capullo posted it a couple of years ago, and I remember it was just beautiful. He was on a boat in the lake. It was gorgeous. I was
oh
like, that's a
wow.
great life.
Yeah, there's amazing conventions everywhere, and you learn all these things. Like I went to Calgary in northern Canada, and it was the scariest plane landing I've ever had in my life because apparently it's at the northern tip of the Rockies, and you go over that, and you go down into this valley, and the winds are insane. And
Wow.
I thought we were all going to die. Um, and Calgary kind of cracked me up because the interesting stat about Calgary is I think it's the third most populous city for breast implants.
Calgary.
Calgary in North America. I think Dallas, Texas is number one. I think
I
LA
could
is
believe
number
that.
two.
I could believe
Uh,
that.
and the reason why Dallas and Calgary is because of oil money. Calgary is an oil county, and because I you walk around Dallas or Calgary, it's the same blondes with the huge fake bracts. It's amusing.
You see him like the Dallas Stars, the hockey team. Speaking of amusing, so last year when they just got eliminated the round before, but last year in the playoffs, like there was this one blonde constantly at the home games behind the bench with her boyfriend or whoever, and like she was very proud of what she was featuring, and the
I'm a
cameraman
fan.
was like constantly zooming in,
I'm
and she was blonde too.
I'm
Yeah.
all for it. So I'm all for ladies doing whatever they want to do.
Sure. Well, when you mention Calgary, I think of like a small place, in hockey. Like I know it's big hockey town
It's
too.
not a small town at all.
No, it isn't Calgary.
It's a big, rich. Well, I don't know how populous it is. I'm saying, and when I say populous, it's more per capita. I think I saw
Okay.
some stat that Calgary per capita had the third largest number of breast implants of any city in North America. Um, it might be a small town. It didn't seem that way. I gotta tell you,
Okay.
because there's certain shows you go to. Like I've been to shows. Like I went to a show in Stockton, which is mid California, and people were bitching about spending $5. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And then you go to a show like a Calgary or a Dallas, and people drop 500,000 bucks like it's nothing. You know what I mean? So it's It's interesting sometimes when you get to see all facets of, there's another one. I mean, that story that Stockton I mentioned is another crazy story because I was at this con and I needed to get zip ties. And so I drove to the Kmart near there, and I didn't realize how dangerous Stockton was. Apparently, it's like the meth capital of California and like full of gangs and like really, really bad. And I remember driving, I don't even remember what year this was, but I remember driving by this burnt down hotel that looked like it burned down 30 years ago, but it looked so cool. I stopped my car to take photos of it, and it was like a Walking Dead moment because people got up out of the burned wreckage and started walking towards me, and it freaked me the fuck out, and I ran. I got so it's just there's so many of these stories, and I forget about them. But man, I gotta tell you, I love comics. I've had this wild realm of experiences, met some really fascinating people. Had been able to have good conversations with a lot of really, really interesting people.
Sure. Yeah. I appreciate that. Many years ago I worked for a National Hockey League team in Florida, the Panthers. And I'd bump into people in the elevator. I'd be like, "Oh my God, like I watched you play hockey," or the commissioner of hockey, Gary Bettman. Or you just like notice people and you just nod at each other, and then you call your friend. You're like, "Hey, I just bumped into so and so." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, super cool stuff. Really, really great stories. Um, what are, do you have a favorite like Kapow comic, like a Batman or Superman or Spawn or like Walking Dead that you're rocking now, or that you read recently?
That we're involved in. I really like what Mark is doing with the darkness a
Okay,
lot. I really think it's good. I think the story he's telling is solid. Um, Bill Harms, who does White Sky, is doing a new Impaler book with us, which is a vampire thing, and I'm looking forward to that. But personal favorites, I've always been a fan of Conan the Barbarian. I like Batman. Um,
do you have a favorite Batman story? Like,
do I have a favorite Batman story? Well,
yeah,
I
like
work
No
with
Man's Land or
Silvestri.
Nightfall or
No, probably none of those. I mean, maybe Dark Knight back from the 80s. I think a lot of the newer stuff. I worked with Silvestri on his Deadly Duo. I edited him over
I like
the
that.
6 years that he did that series. So I have a credit in a DC book. It's the only DC book I ever have a credit in. I have several like special thanks in Marvel and DC books from crossovers and stuff like that, but that Deadly Duo is the only one I actually have a credit in.
I've started reading the first issue of that on the DC digital app, and I do enjoy it. I'm like, man, this is so cool seeing Mark Silvestri, because
Yeah,
I didn't know prior to that that there was a Batman in Darkness crossover. I found that on the Hoopla app,
right on.
and I was like, oh wow, when did that take place? Do you remember what year that was?
Darkness Batman would have been
Uh,
1999, I think.
wow, it was that far back.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, I would have never guessed it. I would have guessed it would have been like mid 2000s because the art is just like so beautiful, you
It
know.
was Silvestri and Finch did the art for that, and I think Jeff Loeb and Scott Dell wrote it.
Okay, yeah, okay, cool. Well, one of my last things I want to ask you is as an editor or as president, what is something that you've learned about people?
Ooh. Editorially, I could say the best thing you can do as an editor is give your editorial notes as questions and get the people to think they came up with the changes on their own. When you just give someone an arbitrary note saying do this, do that, they will often resist it or be upset about the note. And if I've found that if you ask questions, sometimes you'll poke a hole in their through line. Or when you ask a lot of questions like I do as an editor, one of two things will happen. They'll give you more information that's not on the page, and then you can relay it to them as like, that's awesome. It's not communicated. And or they realize that they did something that doesn't make sense or is problematic, and they'll acknowledge it and notice it based on the questions, and then they embrace the changes a lot more. People are very resistant to creative notes. I am. I hate getting notes from people, although I have a handful of people that I get notes from, and they all know now not to give them to me verbally. They write them down and email them to me, and then I don't discuss them with them for days because I go through a fuck you to okay, I mean it's so no, and I just when people give me notes to my face, I my reject is fuck you. And
Sure.
I'm like, what the fuck do you know? You know, and then you think about it, and then sometimes, and a lot of times when I'm pitching stuff, I'll pitch to my friends, and if they ask me a question, and even though in the pitch it was addressed, I recognize that okay, I didn't hit that hard enough, and so I think that's something that is lost is verbal pitching of stories in intimate groups. I don't think that happens as much as it did 30 years ago, because a lot of my early stories developed that way because you would pitch them to your buddy, and then he would poke a hole in it and then you would realize while you were saying, oh, this, that, other thing, and you would adjust it on the fly. And I think that happens less. I'm very curious to see where everyone goes with the AI of it all. I wonder now if that old camaraderie of two guys or two girls or whoever, people going around to their friends and talking about stories and bouncing ideas. I wonder if people are now bouncing their ideas off their AI, just to get the feedback. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's a brave new world, and things are changing. I know there's a huge resistance to AI in comics, and I agree with that for the most part, especially when it comes to artwork and actual the written word of creative stuff. I think it's I don't know. I worry about it because I see concept art now in Hollywood. The concept artists are gone. I mean, that was sort of the first casualty front line is because you don't need it anymore. I mean, and
Mhm.
the problem is if you're a studio executive or a producer, you can either, go through a few prompts and get what you need for free, or you can hire someone and pay them, and you might not even get what you want, and it might take weeks. And I think the general populace doesn't really have the same disdain for it or the understanding of the copyright issues and how it's putting people out of work. There's more out there about it now. People are more upset about the data centers and causing their electrical bills to go up than they are about intellectual property theft. And I think one of the things that amuses me the most is I've always been somewhat disdainful of what I call print jockeys, and these are these artists that go to conventions and they'll have a wall of prints of Star Wars and Star Trek and all these characters they don't own, and they're doing basically their versions of it, and that's technically a violation of copyright law. And it's just those companies have opted to not pursue it. I've often wondered why Marvel and DC didn't shut that down, but they never did. People for the most part that do top cow prints are artists, and we give our artists permission to use their art with us as prints, and so that is fully authorized and licensed. And like when Mark does Batman prints, the same. We have permission from DC to do that, and we'll do a limited run of Batman prints that we'll sell at San Diego or whatever. Uh, Long story, but the point being is I sometimes I now see these guys are enraged about the AI artists. So to me, it's like the thieves are crying about the thieves. I mean, it's like that it does make me laugh. I've been vocal in the past and had people get in my face about it because I call them print jockeys. And so because I know guys who used to be legitimate artists and they sort of went down that career path because they make more money selling prints and doing commissions at shows. Commissions are perfectly legal, by the way. If you draw stormtroopers all day long and Darth Vader and you do an original work and sell that, perfectly legal. You can do it's just when you copy it and make multiple copies and sell multiple copies of it, that's a violation of copyright law. The law is
Interesting.
very specific.
It's interesting you mentioned that because that something like that has crossed my mind when I've gone to like New York Comic Con and Artist Alley. You see a guy doing all these different properties.
Yeah.
You're like, huh, I guess he can do that. Okay.
No, they can't. It's illegal, and there's an offense, and people have tried to shut it down. And I think Marvel and DC realize editorially that a lot of the people who do this is that this is the same reason why publishers don't shoot down wannabe artists that suck and are annoying because they buy lots of comics. You know what I mean? It's not like we have a huge fan base. I mean,
Yeah.
when we have like I know personally probably half the people that buy our books regularly. I've met most of them at conventions over the years, and I know them. I know their kids, and I know sometimes when these people die, and so and especially with Kickstarters, you get to know these people even better because you see the same names. I think we're on our 19th Kickstarter campaign, and so it's just everything's changed. I mean, you can run a very solid business with a lot less fans than you used to.
See, that's interesting that you say that because you would think it would be the opposite.
Well, and the Kickstarter of the world is fascinating to me because we're doing the Darkness Volume 4 Kickstarter right now. And if you look, we're on day, I think, 10 of a 30-day campaign, and we've already beaten what we did with Darkness Volume 3.
See, but it's interesting you mentioned Kickstarter because I would never have thought, like, if you were like, hey, do you think we're on Kickstarter and Top Cow? I'd be like, no, you guys are Top Cow. You don't need Kickstarter.
We've been on Kickstarter for 15 years.
Okay.
I
Hmm.
mean, we've used it as a primarily as a means to do hardcover collections of older content, and
Okay.
they've sold repeatedly. I mean, these are the this is actually an unopened return box I got from a Kickstarter campaign. Uh, I knew what it was, but this is basically a Kickstarter box that someone will get, and it has in it the book. There's a book on top. It's got some cards, some trading cards, a little book hanger thing, and then on the inside is it's exactly how the fans get it.
Oh.
This is Darkness, complete Darkness Volume 1. And it's a Kickstarter exclusive. Oh, this one's signed by Mark Silvestri. Kickstarter exclusive cover. And the direct market can buy the books. You can get the book through the comic book stores, but it just has this cover. It doesn't have the dust jacket.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay,
So,
cool.
and then people in the Kickstarter campaign will get, they'll get these exclusive variants, prints, door hanger. It's just what Totsky stuff that people want.
Sure. Like,
And
but when I, again, like when I thought of Kickstarter, I thought it was, like you think of guys like Graham Nolan or Ethan Van Sciver who do that, like their own little projects. But like I would have never thought that Top Cow did something like that. Interesting.
dude, Todd McFarlane, there was a $2 million GI Joe one that Skybound just did last week. I mean, everybody does it. I mean, Marvel
Oh,
and DC don't do it, but
yeah.
every non-Marvel and DC publisher is using Kickstarter.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't know. Like I've gone on there. Like the last time I went on there, I got Alex Ross's Kingdom Come Blu-ray, which was super
Right.
cool. And they have like other things you might be interested in, and I've explored a little bit, but I haven't like kept track of it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it has become a cottage industry, and it is one of the main areas of growth. I mean, it's and like I said, there isn't a loss of fans. The fan base actually grows. I mean, it's like
Interesting.
if you do a book in the direct market, your sales will generally go down month after month slowly. And then you have to do a crossover, a big push for issue 25 to get the sales back up, and then they go back down slowly. Um, what we've noticed in Kickstarter is when you do subsequent volumes, the numbers continually go up.
Yeah, and like obviously what to print. You don't have to worry about like you
Yeah,
said,
because
the
it's all
fluctuation.
it's
It's like
basically pre-ordering. It's all
right.
pre-order.
Yeah, you know who wants it, and you know how much you need to make, and yada yada. Oh, interesting. Thank you for educating me on that. I had no idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, super
all
cool.
good.
Thank you. Well, dude, thanks for staying in touch with me. Thanks for being so kind with your time. Thanks for putting up with like I said, for being patient with me and I'm
No
transposing
worries,
dates.
man.
And thank you for
All
being
good.
a delight to talk to and the stories you shared, man.
Well, I have to. And so, where do you air this? Is it on a YouTube thing?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I'll put it on YouTube.
Yeah, send me the link. I'll blow it up on our feeds.
Aw, thank you, man. That's mighty, mighty kind of you. I'll
I'll
be
help
like,
promote you too. I'm all about promoting myself.
get to know Matt Hawkins. Who is Matt Hawkins? Watch the video. Yeah.
Right on.
Or
Works
or
for me,
like
man.
or like glue guy Matt Hawkins or something.
Yeah, man behind the man. No,
The man behind the man. There you go.
yeah, always been the man behind the man. I'm fine with that. I got no
Yeah.
problem with that. I think that's what, you think a lot of you look there's a lot of historical situations where people were behind people of greatness and got jealous of that and
Yeah.
ended up fucking themselves. And I got who knows how many years left on this planet. I just want to have a good time.
Yeah.
So
Sans potatoes and alcohol.
yeah, well, we all have our fun one way
Yeah.
or
Yeah, yeah. Well,
another.
Matt, thank you so much, and thanks for being so gracious and being such a joy to talk to. And
Awesome,
I
man.
and I appreciate your time, and I'll try to stay in touch as well.
Sounds good. Take care. Have a good
All right,
night.
you too. Take care, Matt.
See you.
Bye bye. Well, there you go, all you Sheehan-ites. The man behind the man, Matt Hawkins. Like, subscribe, and if you got a comment, let me know. Let me know what Image Comics Top Cow you're reading. Maybe any Kickstarters you're into. So thank you very much, everyone.